perimeter of a square. So in the previous video, we just talked about random shapes, and we were focused mostly on combining and simplifying lengths, mixed units of length. So you remember you added the feet and inches and you had to simplify that, okay? So now let's talk about the perimeter of a square. So get your note card out and let's make some notes here. So our formula, well, let's draw a figure of a square first, okay? Now you're supposed to know what a square is, so if you need to go and review your shapes, you can do that. So that each one of these is S for side, okay? So that's side, 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 side. Remember, a square has 4 equal sides and all angles are 90 degrees, okay? And you got 2 sets of parallel lines, so you can go review that. The formula, write it down. You're not going to have to necessarily, well, I take that back. If you're on the high set, look at your formula sheet and tell me, do you see the formula for the perimeter of a square? And no, you don't. Okay? So yes, if you're on the high set, you need to write your formula down and let's start getting familiar with that. The perimeter is 4 times the side. Because remember, the perimeter is just adding up all the sides. So you could say S plus S plus S plus S, or you could just say 4 times S. Because remember, multiplication is just shorthand for addition. Okay, so your steps on these. We're going to follow some steps to solve. Now, I know that we would rather not do any steps and we could just plug it in the calculator and get it done. But here's the thing. These are really simple problems we're going to start out with. We want to do simple problems, learn how to do it, but then we're going to make the problems harder, longer, more steps, more complicated, working backwards. And if you don't follow your steps, then when you get to the harder ones, you're not going to know how to solve them. So trust me, just trust me on this. Just follow your steps, even for these easy, cheesy ones. And then when we get to your hard ones, you already have the skills in place to work them. So our steps to solve is 1, draw and label. Now, that is just one of the most important things in math. If you would draw and label what you have, then all of a sudden you know what direction you need to go in to solve it. Write your formula. If you watched my video on Pythagorean theorem, then these are the same steps. Write your formula. Number 3, substitute in, so plug your numbers in that you labeled. I'm just going to call it plug in. I like to call it plug in, but that's really substitution. You got to plug in your numbers. That was why you labeled them. And then, number 4, you're going to have to use your algebra to solve. Okay? So, you want to draw and label, write your formula, plug your numbers in, use your algebra to solve. And you need to include your units with your answer on these, and you'll see why as we get into area and volume and surface area and all that stuff. All right, so let's work a couple of just basic ones to give you an idea of what to do. Okay, so we won't do any word problems here, but we will be working our steps, and we need to follow our steps so that we can not get lost. Okay, now, if you're taking the high set, get your formula sheet out for your high set. Mine is yellow just because I like to put it on a different color. And next to rectangle, I'm going to write the perimeter of a square in the margin because that's not included in my formula sheet, so P equals 4S. That's what I'm going to put right there. I'm going to just add to this formula sheet so I know what's on there and what's not on there, and I can commit some things to knowledge so that to memory, so that I have the skills I need to pass my test. So draw yourself a square. Let's just work it on this one. No, let's not. Okay, so draw yourself a square. You can never assume that this is a square by eyeballing it. So I have students say, oh, that looks like a square. Well, unless I tell you that all the sides are 7 inches, I don't have to, if I tell you it's a square, or if I mark all sides are 7 inches, then you can proceed as a square. If I haven't told you that, you cannot assume it. So I'm asking you to find the perimeter. So the P equals question mark. So I put that in the inside, and let's label this. So that's a side, and that's a side, okay? So we draw and label. And then we want to write our formula. So the formula is P equals 4S. P equals 4S. Now we want to plug in our numbers. So we know that 7 is the side. So P is what we're looking for, so it stays in the formula. Keep the equal sign. Keep the number 4, because that's part of the formula. S is 7. You can't put a number right next to another number in algebra. So you have to use your parentheses. Remember your rules of substitution. And then you can use your algebra to solve. Well, do you really have any algebra to solve here? Because here's your variable that's by itself. And that's just multiplication. So no, this time you're just solving it by doing multiplication. Got to put your units. Remember, perimeter is plane units, which means you just need the unit itself. Inches, miles, feet, whatever. You don't square it. You don't cube it. It's just plain old units. Now let's do another one. So let's say you've got a square and it's 12 feet 5 inches. Now I'm telling you that this is a square, so you know all sides are equal. I'm asking you to find the perimeter, so P equals question mark. We are drawing and labeling right here, number 1 on our steps. What is this up here? That's a side, equals S. You could put it in front or in back or on top or whatever works, okay? So we drew and we labeled. Now we want to write the formula. Formula is P equals 4S because that is a square. Then we need to plug our numbers in. Well, your numbers, if you've labeled them, are up there. P we don't know, so it stays in the formula. 4 goes here, parentheses, because you can't just put a number next to a number. Ugh, yuck. You got all this stuff. Yes, put it in there. Plug it in, plug it in. And look what you've got here. You've got this 4 times around. Now, this is some algebra. Do you remember this in algebra, that you have to distribute that? So you have to say 4 times 12. 4 times 12 is what? Use your calculator if you need to. And then 4 times 5. Okay, good. Whew, we did it. Because, right, 12, 12, 12, 5, 5, 5. Good, good, good. Excuse me, though. Look at inches. Get your formula sheet out. Look on the right side and find inches. Well, there it is on the top. And what is my limit for inches before I have to simplify? 12. Is that over 12? Yeah. So this is the wait there's more part of your problem. The infomercial part, okay? There's more. You've got to simplify that. 20 over 12. Remember how we did that in the previous videos? I just like to come to the side and work it like an improper fraction. So the bottom goes into the top. Top's under the sign, bottom's on the outside. How many times does that go in? You can use your calculator. Then you subtract. So this 1 becomes the next unit up. This 8 stays in the leftovers. Remember looking at that ruler. If you're over the 12-inch mark, then you've got another foot with some inches left over. So that 48 feet, you've got to add your 1 foot to it. So that becomes 49 feet with 8 inches left over. So my perimeter is 49 feet, 8 inches left over. All right, so that's kind of one of those weird ones you have to distribute. And if you're working these problems on page 79, then you have several like that.